Hey everybody, just a quick video for another update for the week coming up ahead in fifth grade. Next week starts September 8th. We got the Monday off, so I'm sure we're all going to enjoy that tomorrow, and then just a short 4-day week ahead of us. Just to kind of get into a few things real quick to let you know things that were going on last week and into this week. Just in general news, nothing, no big events obviously got going around school. I do feel like we're approaching a sort of more regular routine. We started getting into the actual fifth grade learning instead of just the first few weeks we were spending catching up on some of the big stuff that was maybe missed or some of the key things I want to make sure we're pretty solid on, particularly with math. Getting the textbooks this week or this past week as well for all the classes, which was nice to settle into those. It helps with the routine as well. And did have homework a little bit here and there, so we're kind of getting used to that as being a regular part of our school experience. And we usually get the normal moans and groans when I first start giving out homework, but I told the kids, I'm not doing it to be mean. It's just one of those things we got to do and get used to that extra responsibility. In a couple of years, they'll be looking back thinking about how easy fifth grade was once they're up in junior high and dealing with homework and all the various classes like they'll get every night in those classes. So um, just about all building up that ability to be responsible and take care of business and learn all we can as we go. We also had a remote learner join us in class this week, which was a lot of fun. She's in my homeroom class. So if you're Miss Cullen's classroom, you're not experiencing that as part of the class, but it was nice to get her connected in with us and working on a few things. But she did good participating in class, and hopefully that'll start to be a little easier to work through as far as just feeling like a normal part of the class too. It was a little tough on me having to set all that up on Monday, so I think the kids were definitely feeling a little discombobulated just like me. But by the end of the week, hopefully it was going along better, and as we go through the remaining weeks of that time, we'll be doing good with that. Okay. Um, in our science classes, just last week, like I said, got into the science textbook, which was great. Talking about just basically what is science. We talked about science being studying the natural world and lots of different ways we can do that in different fields of science that studied the world. Talking about keywords like observation, investigation, communication being a big one, about sharing results of investigations so that knowledge can grow and we can know more and more things about the world. So there are a lot of things. We had this example of Francesco Redi, who was an Italian scientist in the 1600s that performed an investigation and made a discovery that now we know is just a common piece of knowledge, but he discovered that. So maybe ask your kids about that at home. This week coming up, we're going to get further into the textbook and talk about specific types of investigations. Usually when we hear the word investigation, we're always thinking the word experiment, which is an investigation, but they're not exactly synonyms. An experiment is a type of investigation. We'll talk about a couple other ones as well, like observational studies, which usually would be doing if we're trying to learn things about nature. If we just maybe go out into a field and observe the habitats of different living things and stuff like that, or just watching the world around us without really controlling the experiment. And also using model. There's special cases where having a model of a situation is kind of more more suitable for studying and learning about that situation, depending on certain aspects that might be kind of difficult to get out and observe in nature. So we'll kind of get into that, focusing on types of investigation, which is another fun lesson now that we're into the book. In math, last week we started out kind of connecting some of the learning about area that Mrs. Harker covered at the end of the remote learning time in the end of fourth grade. And really the big idea with that was to use that to get us thinking about multiplication and long division and how we can apply that process beyond just being given problems to work out, but also to, if we have a situation we're given where we're maybe told the area or need to find the area, and how we can use some extended math problems for that. We also did get into the textbook for math, so luckily those showed up and I passed them out in the middle of the week. And we talked about multiplication patterns and using mental math skills to help us maybe take like a big looking multiplication problem, but quickly find an answer to it based on the powers of 10, meaning like tens, hundreds, and thousands. And some of the mental math work we can do to take a big problem and break it down into smaller parts that are a little bit easier to tackle and keep us from having to take too long to find out those answers, which we'll use moving forward. This week we'll get further into the textbook and talk about multi-digit multiplication, which is something they touched on last year as well. I could tell from some of the work we were doing earlier last week Some kids are pretty familiar with it, and some are maybe need a little more guidance and a little more closer contact with me to kind of work through those kind of problems. But we'll get into the textbook, and a big part of that is using the estimating answers to help guide us through that process and make sure we end up on an answer that makes sense in the end, and using those estimates as a tool to help us define whether our answers we get are reasonable, or if maybe they don't quite match up with around where our estimate was, how we can kind of use that to catch any errors that may have occurred, which does happen. So that's another part of working through and learning. Lastly, in English class, last week we were working on the writing process. The kids did a great job and had a lot of fun with a writing prompt I gave them to help practice the pre-writing and editing and revising and drafting and coming up with a final copy of a project, which is just a short narrative where we used the sort of prompt of "I dreamed I was a blank," where we picked our favorite animals. We had some people pick flamingos and different types of animals. A lot of good creative ones that give a chance to pick their own and come up with some fun narrative with that, which was good. We also got into the textbook, talking about the first lesson in the textbook with parts of speeches on the 4 kinds of sentences, and we did pretty good with that. We used that as a chance to get outside. We had some nice weather by the end of the week too, so we kind of were able to get out and do a little bit of textbook work and enjoying some nice sunshine without it being too hot. So hopefully we'll have some more of that this week. And this week we will dive deeper into the textbook lessons with parts of speech. We'll start talking about nouns and pronouns and all these other kind of just smaller parts of speech is where a lot of our focus will be. So every now and then we'll sprinkle in some writing topics. But for now, part of getting into that routine is learning about all those different types of parts of speech and working in the workbook to follow up on that, perhaps with a couple of homework assignments during the week. So that's really it for the week ahead coming up. For now, I hope you guys enjoy your Labor Day tomorrow, and if you're already enjoying that now, hope you're doing so safe and smart, and have a great week ahead too. And I'll see you guys on Tuesday, September 8th. All right, bye-bye.